right, so now we're going to go ahead and finish up 1.2. So again, we're still in 1.2. We'll do a few more questions. And then we might do a few out of 1.3 as well. So let's look at a few more of these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work out one of your homework questions right now, because there are two of them and they're very, very similar. 15 and 16 in your homework are almost identical. I'm going to work out 15. You can work out 16. So we're going to now look at 15. And what's happening in 15 is we're going to find out how much money you're going to save if you pay off a loan early. So there's a formula that you can use to calculate to see how much money you would save if you pay your car off early. So we're going to now look at 15. We're going to read it. The formula is in the problem itself. And then we're going to solve it. When a loan is scheduled to run for N payments, is paid off, K payments ahead of schedule, the amount of unearned interest U is given by this formula, where F is the scheduled finance charge. So let's write up our formula first, identify what the pieces mean, then we'll read it and plug the numbers in. So here's our formula, and this is homework. (1.2). We're going to look at 15. I'm going to do 15. You're going to use 15 to work through 16 in your homework. Our formula is U equals F times K plus 1 over N plus 1. Now, U is the money that you saved. So if I pay my car off early, I'm going to save some money, right? And that's how much money that you're going to save. So U is how much money you save, unearned interest. F is the finance charge. So if you take out a loan for a car or anything else, when you read your paperwork, it'll tell you the finance charge on that particular item. And so that's how much you have to pay in interest for the item total. Now, U is going to be how much of that I would save. Then we have N. N is the total number of payments. So that's the length of the loan. So it might be 36 months, maybe 24, but N is going to be how many months you took that loan out for. K is how many months you have left, or payments left. So that's how many payments you have left over. So you've got a loan. You're going to pay it off early. So K would be how many months you've got left on that loan. N is the total number of months that you have for that. F is the finance charge. And U is the unearned interest, or the money that you save. So there's our formula. Now we're going to read 15. We're going to identify the pieces, and we're going to plug them into our formula. So let's look at 15 here. The finance charge on a loan taken out by Edward is $499. If there are 24 equal monthly installments that we need to repay the loan, and we're going to pay it in full with 13 months left. Find the amount of unearned interest. Okay, so we now need to figure out and determine our values here. Now, U, we still don't know. So U is unknown. That's what we're trying to find. We do have a finance charge. So the finance charge is how much the bank would make off of your loan. So it looks like Edward has a finance charge of $499. So F is going to be the $499. That's your finance charge. N is how long the loan runs for. Not how many payments are left, the number that are there total. So N in this case would be 24 because we're taking out this loan for 24 months or 2 years. And then we're going to pay this note back with 13 months left. So K is going to be 13 because there's 13 payments left. So we've got 13 months left in this loan. Maybe we got our income tax back and we just want to pay it off. So 13 months left. I want to see how much money I would save. So I can now plug in my values. So we have $499 times K, which is 13 times 13 plus 1 over N, which is 24, times 24 plus 1. And I'm going to go ahead and write that $499 as $499 over 1. It's just going to make it easier to work with. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that over 1. So let's rewrite this now. Again, just so we don't make a mistake. We've got now a 13 and a 13 plus 1, that's 14. Down below we have a 24 and a 24 plus 1 that makes it a 25. Is everyone okay with what I've got done so far? Now here's where you have to be careful. We do not use a calculator and divide into the very, very end. So we're going to multiply across the top. We're going to multiply down below in the denominator. And then we're going to divide at the very, very end. If you divide too early, you might be off by a couple of dollars. So we want to divide at the very, very end. So we multiply first. So I'm going to take that $499. It's hard to see with the reflection there, but we've got that $499. We're going to multiply that by 13 and by 14. Multiply across. And the top comes out to be then 90,818. We just use our calculator. Then we repeat the process down below. We have 1 times 24 times 25. And that comes out to be 600. And the very, very last step is we divide. So work it out first. Divide at the very end. And we're going to round now to the nearest dollar. So when we round to the nearest dollar, it looks like we would save $151. And when we round, 36 cents. So we went through, we plugged our numbers in, we worked it out, and we got our answer. So if we pay this loan off with 13 months left, we should save $151.36. Is everyone okay with how I did that? And of course, the fewer payments you have left, the less money you're going to save. So if I only had 3 payments left, I wouldn't save much money. But if I had 20 payments left, I would save a lot more. So we found our values. Labeled what they are, we plugged them in, worked it all the way out, divided at the very end. we need to do one more here. We'll just do a simple percentage problem. So we're just going to do a simple percentage problem. Question 57. And this will be the last one out of 1, 2, and then we'll do a few out of 1, 3. Not very many, but just a few. So question 57. There's not much to this question at all. It's a very, very easy question. A real estate agent earned $3,600 in commission from the sale of a property that was sold for $210,000. What was her rate of commission? And this is question 57 here. Don't try to make this one more difficult than what it needs to be. We can look up a formula, but we really don't need to. How can we figure out what the percentage rate is? Well, we're going to work with the percentage. So our percentage is going to be equal to the commission divided by the value of the property. So we're going to take our commission and we're going to divide it by the value of the property. So how much did we make in commission? Well, we made $6,300. So that's your commission value. And that property sold for $210,000. Percentages is always dividing. So all we have to do is divide, right? We take how much money we made off the commission, divide by the sale of the house. We're going to get a decimal. We're going to make that decimal then into a percent, and that's going to give us what we want. So now we just simply divide this out. Okay, so we're just going to divide these out, get our answer. So we've got $6,300. Divide by $210,000. And that gives you 0.03. Now, we don't want that as a decimal. We want that as a percentage. So 0.03 as a percentage, that would be what? 3%. Okay, so that real estate agent made 3% on the sale of that house. Right, is everyone okay with that? So some of these are very, very simple. They're all going to be just using a formula, finding the formula, plugging the values in. That's it. Now we are going to do a little bit out of 1, 3. We'll just kind of start 1, 3 today, and we'll pick up 1, 3 next week and finish it. Now we're going to move on to 1.3. We'll only do a couple of questions out of 1, 3 here. And 1, 3 is a longer section. And we're going to begin by just working out some of these applications. Now, on these, we're going to have to come up with our own equation. So we're going to have to make sure we know what to put in where, how to come up with our own equation, and how to solve it. So let's work with a couple of these. We'll do a couple of expressions first. Then we'll do some equations. So I'm on page 87. And we're going to begin with question 12. We always want to read the direction. The direction at the top. So it says, translate each verbal phrase into a mathematical expression. Now, we covered this earlier. What's the difference between an equation and an expression? This is an expression, so are we going to have an equal sign, yes or no? No. So we already know no equal signs in this one. We can't solve it. We work with an expression. So we're looking at 12. Question 12 says, the product of 8 more than a number and 5 less than a number. So let's review some terms here. Product. What does product mean? Product means multiply. Okay, so if we see product, we know we're going to have to multiply. More. Okay, more means add, less means what? Subtract. So we're looking at 12. So we want the product of 8 more than a number and 5 less than a number. Now the and, that's going to separate our sets of parentheses. So that and separates it out. So let's work with the first part. The product of 8 more than a number. 8 more than a number. Do we know that number? No. So we're going to use x to represent that number. So the product of 8 more than a number. 8 more than a number would be x plus 8. Okay, that's the first step. Now the and is the second part. And what are we going to be doing? We're going to be looking for a product. Now what does product mean? Multiply. So the and separates the two parentheses out. 5 less than a number. So 5 less than a number. So 5 less than a number would be x minus 5. Not 5 minus x, because it's 5 less than. So less than means it's subtracted off, so it's on the end. So our first part is x plus 8. That's a number plus 8. We're looking at a product, so that means we multiply it. So then what are we going to multiply it by? A number, 5 less than a number. So that would be x minus 5. That's all you need to do. We cannot solve it. Why can we not solve this? It doesn't have an equal sign, right? If it had an equal sign, we could solve it. But there's no equal sign. That's all we can do. Leave it alone. Later chapters, we'll learn how to FOIL this out. But right now, leave it as it is. That's all they want. Question 14. Question 14 talks about a quotient. Now, quotient is going to mean divide. So we're going to have to come up with a fraction. So we're looking at on 14 the quotient, so that means divide, of 9 and 5 times a non-zero number. Notice again the and. Now that and is going to separate out the top half from the bottom half. We're looking at a quotient. So what do we have on the top? 9. And the and separates them in half. So the 9 is on the top. And what's going to be down below? If we read it, it says after the end, 5 times a non-zero number. So that's going to be 5 times a number. That's 5 what? X. And then we have to include that x cannot be 0. Now, why do we have to include that x cannot be 0? Well, we have to make sure that x can't be 0, because if x was 0, you would be dividing by 0. And can 0 be in the denominator or the bottom half of a fraction? No. So that's why we have to add on that caveat that x cannot be 0. Because if we put a 0 here, you get 9 divided by 0. You can't do that. That's undefined. 0 can be in the top. 0 cannot be in the bottom of a fraction. So that's all you need to do there. And the and separates them out. The next two that we're going to do, we're going to be doing the same thing, but these are going to be equations, and we're going to have to solve them. So we'll begin with question 17. If we read the directions, it says this one's going to be an equation. So it's going to have an equal sign, and we're going to be able to solve it out. So we're now going to look at 17. We'll read it through, and then we'll break it apart into smaller pieces. So let's read it through once. Then we'll take a moment to think about what we've got. Read it in smaller parts after that. Again. So if the product of a number, -4, is subtracted from the number, the result is 9 more than the number. We want to find the number. So we're going to begin with very small pieces here. If the product of a number and -4. So what does product mean again? Product means what? Multiply, right? So what do we have? That very first small little part. Product of a number and -4. So a number and -4. That would be a -4x. Is everyone okay with that part? Is subtracted from the number. Now, how do we handle that part? That's where we get confused. So this is going to be taken away from a number. And what are we going to take that away from? The number x. So we've got an x out in front, and then we've got a double negative here, just like this. Now, why is it written like this? Okay, let's read it and make sure we understand why it's in that order. So the product of a number and -4, that's that -4x. And I'm going to subtract, or I'm going to take that away from a number. So when I take it away, it goes on the end as a negative. Think about like a bank balance. If you take out or subtract from your bank balance $12, that $12 is negative on the end, right? Okay, so we're going to subtract from it. It's already negative. So that's why we have the double negative. So it's -4 to begin with, -4x there. And then we have a negative here because it's being taken away or subtracted off. So that's like a negative bank balance. So that is that piece. The result is, now whenever I say result is, that's an equals. So result means equals. And what does it now equal? 9 more than a number. So 9 more than a number would be 9 plus x. Now, addition, order does not matter. But subtraction, order is important. So we have to make sure when we do subtraction, we're very, very careful with the order. Addition, not important at all. Subtraction, though, it is. So this is what we've got. So here's our equation. Now we can solve this. So we can work with it by looking at the double negative. And what do we know about a double negative here? Does anyone remember what happens with a double negative? Yep, double negative makes that positive. And we can go ahead and combine these together. So we've got x, and 4 more makes it 5x, and that equals a 9 plus x. Now we can solve it, and we can find our actual answer by moving that x over with subtraction. And now we have 5x minus x, that makes it 4x, equals 9. And our last step, what do we do to get rid of that 4 in front? Divide by our 4. And so what's our value of x in this case? Looks like x is going to be 9/4, isn't it? That one was tricky because of the order and the setup. Once it's set up, it's easy to deal with them. It's not difficult at all. The problem is the setup. Okay, now we're going to move on and we'll do one more of these. And let's look at question 20. And this will probably be our last question, because by the time we're finished, yeah, we may get out a few minutes early. Not very much though. So we're going to look at question 20. When 75% of a number is added to 6, the result is 3 more than the number. I want you to find the number. So 75% of a number. When we work with percentages, we want to turn them into a decimal. So we're going to work with this 75%. And what do we know about 75% as a decimal? Well, 75% as a decimal would be 0.75, wouldn't it? Okay, there's our decimal there. Now, what do we want? It says 75% of a number. So 75% is 0.75 of the number means x. So that's the first part. 75% of a number would be 0.75 x there. I'm going to add 6 to that. So then we're going to put a plus 6 there. The result is means equals 3 more than the number. So that's 3 more than the number. So that's simply going to be x plus 3. Is everyone okay with how I set that up? Now, on the right-hand side, this is addition, so order doesn't matter. Same thing on the left. You could put them in either order on that x plus 3 or 3 plus x. Doesn't matter. Where it matters is subtraction. Subtraction order matters. Addition order does not. Now we can finish it out. So we're going to move things around. So I'm going to move that 6 over, first with subtraction. So now we have a 0.75x equals x minus 3. When we work with decimals, make sure you put the 1 out in front. So I'm going to subtract this x off, and when I subtract it off, I'm going to write this out as 1.00x, because that's what it is. That way we don't make a mistake with that decimal, because it's very easy to make a mistake. Now we can make sure we don't make a mistake. So 0.75 minus 1, that's a minus 0.25x. And that then equals a minus 3. We're going to divide both sides now by a minus 0.25. And what do we know about a negative divided by a negative? Okay, it becomes positive. So let's go ahead and find our value here. So we've got 3 divided by 0.25. That should come out to be a 12. Negative and negative makes it a positive. So your answer for that one is x equals now a positive 12. So let's now talk about our homework. And let's see what we've got for our homework. We covered quite a bit of material today. So for your homework, 1.1, you should be able to do them all. 1.2, you should be able to do them all. 1.3, we can do a few of them. So in 1.3, you should be able to now work through 1 through 6. So 1.3, you should be able to do 1 through 6. Now, again, I am not going to pick this up next class period, but what we will do is we'll spend about the first 45 minutes of class answering questions over the homework. So make sure you work through it. When do I pick up the homework? I pick up the homework on the day of your exam. Right, so make sure you work through that homework. Bring in any questions that you have. I know we normally work through 30 to 45 minutes of questions. So bring those questions in, and next week we'll finish up 1.3 and 1.4 as well. So that's your homework is 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3, 1 through 6. So I will see everyone then next week.